Hey, I'm gonna tell you right now, F you in advance if you have something to say about my shirt. Don't say nothing about my shirts. I'm gonna give another reaction to this guy. I just reacted to him just a couple minutes ago, but I'm gonna react to him again. His name is Andrew Wilson. He schools a feminist on why her utopian world doesn't work. Okay, let's see. Whoa, let's see. Feminists are normally far left, so she probably believes in socialism. You can't fully debunk socialism. I don't care who you think you are, just as well as you can't fully debunk capitalism. You can't fully debunk any of these things. You can only, because some element of socialism came from elements of capitalism. So it's extremely hard to debunk it all across the board because we have things like labor unions, social security programs. Some places use universal basic income like Alaska, and most of these programs are very effective and help people towards the end of their life. They really do, right? You know what I'm saying? Now, they have their problems, but these are things that most people find good and things that we should lean towards. Universal basic health care, these things like that. These are all social programs that come from the ideas of socialism to a degree, just as well as capitalism is one of the most effective markets of ever pushing forward anything in the world. So when people start talking about capitalism this, capitalism that, you have to remember it's the biggest driving force of economic growth in human history. So you can't debunk either one all the way, but it does have exploitation as an element of it. There's an element of exploitation in capitalism, all kind of things like that. Anyways, let's hop right into the video, y'all know. So let's see how he debunks it. Normally I notice when they say debunk, it's really not a debunk. It's just, I don't know. But anyways, what the fuck? Why does it always do this? All right, let's get it, let's go.
I don't agree because with violence there can definitely come consequences that are not desirable in terms of the outcome. Like if men wanted women to be slaves, you know, who determines if the species goes on?
Men.
Women.
No, men, if you were slaves.
How?
The same way they did in Rome. They impregnated their slaves.
Well, I mean, but women could just commit suicide.
Yeah, why didn't they in Rome?
Well, wouldn't that just be Black Swan?
God, you know, like, when men make these arguments, you prove the feminist point that men are horrible. To a degree, you prove the feminist point. Like, you prove the feminist point that men are horrible, but, like, it's almost like some of us use it. I'm not saying that this is what he's doing right now, but I feel like sometimes, like, some men use it as a justification in order to say, like, look, we're better than you, we're stronger than you, we're more fit than you. Because of that, like, you need to be subservient to us. And you got to be careful, man, like, because you don't really debunk a feminist when you start with that kind of point, because that's what they mean is wrong with men. You know what I mean? The argument you can make is that, look, like, we all need to work together as a collective, and, like, more men are willing to work together than it seems like women are on this topic when it comes to certain things because of things men have done. I'm fair with that. But anyways, let's keep going.
Fallacy just because there's that one example where they did.
Oh, no,
I think
that's
to a
in every
specific degree.
Yeah, we'll give you every example. They didn't do it under Genghis Khan. They didn't do it in Rome.
Yeah, it would just be, again, a Black Swan fallacy.
So,
but I mean,
that's not a Black Swan fallacy, by the way.
They actually did commit. They did commit suicide under Genghis Khan.
Therefore, it can't happen.
Okay, so first of all, what I'm saying is I'm pointing to a historic standard.
Sure.
I'm saying the historic standard, and I asked you a question. I didn't make a propositional statement, so that's why it can't be fallacious.
But I would say that ultimately it does come down to women. If she doesn't want to sustain pregnancy and is a slave, she does obviously have the opportunity to herself.
Yes, but
like you can't have society continue.
I will say that I'll grant this. It is logically possible that all women who are enslaved can off themselves.
Yes.
It's not disputing that.
Right.
However, it's also logically possible they do not, right?
Sure.
Okay, which one do you think is more likely then?
I mean, it would depend on. It would depend.
It means both. What is more likely? Either one. Like, what point are you making, buddy?
Depend on so many different conditions.
Okay, well then that's fair. So give me a single condition in which the female slaves of all of history have ever collectively offed themselves in order to prevent their own slavery.
You can't do anything as a collective. You wouldn't answer a question as a collective either. You could say 50% of them, but you can't say a collective. She's right. This is a Black Swan fallacy that you're making here. Like, legitimately it is. Like, you're giving a collective argument to an argument that's not a collective. She's saying that the women could do that in that type of situation.
Well, it wouldn't be to prevent their own slavery. It would be essentially to stop the, the next generation. And even if
that
you
would
do
be
have
preventing slavery.
Sure, and even if you do have women who are enslaved.
Can you give me an example of this?
No, I can't.
Because
sure you wouldn't say that that's moral. That's what men ought to do.
Well, I believe in objective morality. I'll make odd claims based on an unchanging standard, but you're a moral relativist. You can't be like, you can't do that. It's relative. It's totally relative. So is one set of morals of more value than another set of morals?
I think there are moral facts, if that's what you're asking me.
No, that's not what I'm
Wait, he believes in objective morality. I think sometimes, like, people just need to skate past that. So basically, he believes, if you think about it, I wish I could hone in on people when they talk sometimes. What do you actually mean by an objective morality? You can't believe that being a conservative. Like, you can't believe in an objective morality being a conservative. Morality has to be subjective to you. It has to be subjective to you being a conservative. I don't know. It's interesting. That's interesting. Like, but let's keep going.
I'm asking you if one set of moral particulars has more value than another set of moral particulars.
I'm not sure how to answer.
Well, I would just need to know if... So, okay, for instance, we have one society over here that murders women, and a society over here that does not murder women.
Okay.
Okay? Can you point to something objective that makes the society murdering women? There's some, like, moral claim that you can make which is objective for why that's wrong.
Yes. Okay, I could do that for her. I'm going to see what she does. But first of all, let's say you're a Christian, right? The moral objective is that God wouldn't want you to do that, right? Let's say we live in a subjective society where we all agree that taking someone's life is wrong, which like the collective, if we ask the collective of people, taking an innocent's life would be considered wrong. So if we believed in a subjective society with no God, like let's say like there's no God in that subjective area. So either which way you believe, whether you believe in it subjectively or objectively, right? If you believe in objective morality, which is where like there has to be some type of divine intervention, doesn't have to be, but in an objective morality where there's some type of divine intervention, the divine intervention says, no, we should not kill people, then boom, there's your answer to that one. If you believe in a subjective society, then you could say, well, as a collective, we all agree that murder is wrong, so it's wrong. Like now, in this society where they're doing that doesn't necessarily make it right. I would agree that he would think eating hearts wouldn't be a good thing. But in that society, that's where they would think it is a good thing. Like, anyways.
Well, I mean, murder by definition is wrong.
Facts.
No. Why would it be unjustified?
Yeah.
Bad faith.
Yeah, unjustified doesn't mean immoral.
Well, it means wrong. If it's not just, then it's unjust, which would be wrong.
Okay. We'll rephrase that. They set the conditionals for something you would consider to be murder and say it isn't. It's the justified killing of this group of people here. You consider it murder.
Yes.
What makes their moral facts wrong?
Because they have absolutely no reason to be doing it.
Obviously, it would depend on reason and context.
So you can, with reason and context, determine which moral facts are correct?
Yes.
I think you can have certain observations when it comes to the outcomes. I mean, that would be consequentialism. I think there can be moral facts in terms of there are things that are always wrong regardless of context.
Like? Why would that always be wrong?
RIP3.
Would always be wrong.
Grape. Let's say grape.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, that was right.
Yeah.
Grape would always be wrong because it would because of the harm that it causes.
Yeah. Why is harm wrong?
Because harm is, I mean, again, I would say harm by definition is wrong. Because it is an undesirable outcome within our subjective experience.
Okay, so are all undesirable outcomes immoral?
Yes. No, not all.
No.
Wait, I'm wrong. No.
Then you just contradicted your position.
Sure.
So then you can't point to a set of particulars which are...
I think then, again, that would be kind of, based on, obviously, the scale of harm. I think if there's a certain degree
It wouldn't matter. If it is the case that nothing which is against your subjective experience that you consider harmful is bad, except by your own experience, then you reach back to relativism. It's
sure.
Like, yeah, you're never going to get past relativism. So I don't really know how you can make the claim that this is worse than that. But if you do, right, I'm just willing to grant that you have a principle and will adhere to the principle for the purpose of the debate so we don't bog it down with relativism
Sure.
versus non-relativism.
Okay.
We'll kind of just give you the out there because there's no reason to stay on it. But back to this idea of let's see, right before that when we were diving into
Your
force
Yeah.
and force doctrine. Yeah, so I would say that might makes. I'm not saying right. I'm not going to make the claim that it makes right, but
Okay.
it does make. And so I think that force doctrine is the necessary requisite for rights. It's the necessary requisite to have a nation. It's the necessary requisite to have it.
The government just shocked every American by hiding a $6,400 subsidy and then called it
Anything. It's force.
I disagree because we could obviously agree on rights and have a cooperative
I agree.
nature.
We could agree on rights. And then if somebody violates the rights,
They're punished.
what do we use?
I mean, I would be more towards restorative justice, as well as obviously centering the harm that the victim causes.
Both of
But
those require force.
I can agree to some extent, but I don't think necessarily if rights violations happen, that what the punishment or what the outcomes is what one would deem justice. I would say the conditions to which society is to prevent harm would be the ultimate goal.
That would require force.
He's got you here. No matter what, every way to enforce rights is going to require force. That doesn't necessarily make it less of a utopia because you have to enact force in order to get people to follow some type of things. But I get the point he's trying to make, though. Now that I'm saying it out loud, the point in the argument that he's trying to make is that socialism doesn't work because it requires force in order to get socialism to do it. But the funny thing is, so does capitalism. Money is the thing that forces you to do what you need to go do. You wouldn't show up to that job every day if there was an incentive that paid you every single day. You wouldn't go certain places. You wouldn't build certain things. You do it because if you don't go do it, then you're going to be in a bad position, which is still, in a sense, force in its essence. So, let's go.
How?
Because if somebody violates any of your principles or any of your rights, how do you get them to not do that?
Well, I think rights violate.
Hold up, y'all. Thank you. Oh, my bad, y'all. All right, hold up. Yeah, gotta give me some DoorDash. Cool. Very cool. All right, back to what we're doing.
Violations happen for specific reasons within society. Like if you were to say you were to say that you violated my rights by coming in my house and stealing all my stuff, then if we're in a society of capitalism to where people are subjected to poverty and need access to material goods.
Okay, let's say we have communism. Communism can't exist without force. It's impossible.
Well, but that's again like an example of how we would prevent rights violations, because I would say like if the right is violated, did you really have it to begin with?
Yeah, but you're baking into your hypothetical here. Oh, you violated my right, and now we have done, and you did it based on some conditional of some externality that drove you to this.
Sure.
Right? Forget that, right? They just fucking want to. They just want to.
I think that's just a lazy presupposition.
Yeah, agreed.
That people just want to do things.
Yeah, to just want to cause harm.
Psychopaths don't exist. Sociopaths.
First of all, I want to make this clear. He said sociopaths, so I'll give him sociopaths, but psychopaths are not. They're actually not as violent as people think. 90% of them aren't violent at all. It's crazy. Just to let you know. Just to let you know.
narcissists, these people don't exist? Or
I mean, they do exist, but again, we're talking about what conditions they exist
And
under.
a narcissist really wouldn't care to cause, they would cause harm because they only are thinking about themselves, but to a degree, a narcissist really only cares about themselves, so it's really truly not much harm unless that person has a position of power. I just like challenging this dude, because I would come up here and I would challenge the hell out of this dude. I think me and him would get into a great debate.
And those are very rare.
Okay, I'll even grant that it's rare.
Yeah.
I'll even grant that it's rare. Can you?
But I don't think people are born psychopaths or
Can you-
sociopaths. Again, I would say those are environmental conditions.
Okay, like what? Nourishment.
Well, no, your brain is a social organ, and so it responds to your environment. I think they did a study where they analyzed, I forget how many serial killers' brains, but
I know what she's talking about.
or serial unalivers, but they all had severe damage to the orbital region.
Yep, they all had brain damage. That's true.
Well, I'd like to take a look at the data there.
Sure.
But was there a meta-analysis done on it?
Yeah, there was.
I can't remember if it was a meta-analysis. I want to say it was, but
Okay. Well,
I know exactly what study she's talking about. You guys should research it.
In any case, it doesn't really matter. Ultimately, doesn't matter what society you live in. There's gonna be a prerequisite requirement for force, no matter what. Doesn't matter how. Like, could you even give me a society in which that would not be the case?
That's true. I agree with them on that.
I mean, it's hard to conceptualize in terms of, I think if we had a society based on technology, what do you mean by force? Are we just talking about, like, violence?
If you have a society in which people have if you have any sort of laws, or you have any sort of rights at all, then
Well, I agree with you that laws do...
the only thing which would create a prevention of the violation of said thing
It's force.
by a person would be the requirement of force.
She's correct.
A superior taste North Lake. Michelob Ultra. Superior light beer.
So tell me something, why popular pills?
Prior to working with Popular Peas, we never, ever got...
So
He's correct, but I'm wondering if it's a non sequitur, because I wonder what they brought up at the very beginning to talk about whatever they're talking about now. Because he does that a lot. He throws in a lot of non sequiturs in the situation and into the argument. So I don't know. I wonder if it's a non sequitur. I don't know.
if I
I
want,
mean, I don't know how force prevents rights violations necessarily in
it's the
those
only thing that
instances.
prevents rights
I mean,
violations.
well, if you...
No, it doesn't prevent rights violations. Now she's got your ass. Hopefully she catches on to this. It doesn't prevent rights violations, but it's an interaction to a rights violation. So force becomes something that's needed to enact on people who violate the rights. But it doesn't prevent rights violations. It doesn't.
You're saying men have the monopoly on force, and that's instilled within patriarchy, then why do rights violations occur?
Well, no, that doesn't even follow. It would just follow that men are the only ones who could stop rights violations. I mean, at least in mass.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the only thing that would follow from that. It's like men are the ones in mass who would stop rights violations, which is exactly what happens right now. They are the ones in mass who stop rights violations.
I think when we talk about that too, like obviously, the entity that is in control of force is also can commit rights violations.
Exactly.
So,
Don't disagree at all.
okay.
Totally agree.
So I don't think that the way to society and essentially to establish rights is necessarily through force.
The only way it can be. Well, what happens if you violate somebody's right then?
I mean, what do you mean what happens?
Well, how do you stop them from doing that?
Well, they already did it. What do you mean, how do you stop them?
Well, okay. So I want to take over your country, right?
Why?
Are you just going to let me walk in and do that? Or?
Well, I mean, why? And again, like, do you really have, like, the modes of production
Because I
and the
feel like
materials? I just don't think people wake up and just say, I feel like doing this.
Do you
There's
feel like
motive
rapists
behind
wake up and feel like raping?
Wake up and feel like raping?
Like
no,
they
not
say,
necessarily.
today is the day?
No.
No?
No.
No? So, again, I'm actually really confused now.
I think
So
there are
you have-
instances, sure, where rape can be premeditated.
If we didn't
but
enforce our laws, are you saying people would break them more or less?
If we didn't enforce...
She got you. Like force doesn't prevent anything is basically where she's getting at.
our laws,
Would people break them more or
I
less?
think it would depend on the law.
Any law.
Okay, now the conversation's becoming stupid. All right, y'all. I'm out. Peace.